world knows they are wealthy, but few understand how the House of Saud built a dynasty worth over $1.44 trillion, a fortune larger than entire nations. In this video, you'll uncover the hidden engines behind their power, from oil reserves that shaped global markets to investments rewriting the future. Stay until the very end, because we reveal the single financial strategy that silently secures their dominance for generations to come. The trillion-dollar dynasty, origins and scale of wealth. When people describe the House of Saud, they often begin with the number $1.44 trillion, a figure so large it doesn't feel real until you compare it to entire nations. Their wealth exceeds the GDPs of countries like Spain, Australia, and South Korea. It surpasses the combined valuations of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. And it towers over the personal fortunes of billionaires such as Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, making the Saudi royal family not just wealthy, but historically unrivaled. But no family begins at the top of a trillion-dollar mountain. Their story starts in the dust of the Arabian Peninsula nearly 3 centuries ago. In 1744, Mohammed bin Saud, a local ruler in Diriyah, formed an allegiance with religious reformer Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab. It wasn't merely a partnership, it was the blueprint of a dynasty. Saud provided military power, Abd al-Wahhab provided theological legitimacy. Together they built a structure where political authority and religious influence amplified each other across tribes and territories. This alliance planted the first seed of what would become the wealthiest family the world has ever known. Fast forward to the early 20th century. The Arabian Peninsula was fractured, contested, and culturally diverse. Into this landscape stepped King Abdulaziz ibn Saud, a tactician whose vision mirrored the great empire builders of history. Between 1902 and 1932, he consolidated regions through warfare, diplomacy, and strategic marriages, eventually declaring the birth of a unified kingdom of Saudi Arabia. At this point, the Saudis were powerful, but not wealthy. Not yet. Everything changed in 1938, when American surveyors struck oil in the Dammam Dome. What flowed from that well was not merely crude, it was the economic destiny of a family and a nation. Under King Abdulaziz, early oil concessions evolved into the state-owned giant Saudi Aramco, now valued at over $2 trillion, making it the most profitable company in the world. The wealth generated by Aramco became the foundation of the House of Saud's empire. Oil revenues funded highways, hospitals, military modernization, palaces, and sovereign wealth portfolios, but they also scaled something more significant: power. By the late 20th century, the Saudis controlled an estimated 17% of global proven petroleum reserves, giving them influence over world energy markets. Their decisions could raise or crash global oil prices, their alliances could reshape geopolitical strategy, and their wealth, unlike that of typical billionaires, was tied not to a company or a product, but to the ground beneath their feet. Yet what makes their fortune truly staggering is its multiplicity. The $1.44 trillion accounts for known assets, but analysts suggest the real figure may be higher when private holdings, international real estate, military contracts, and confidential investments are considered. Their wealth is not static, it is systematic, evolving through diversification, sovereign funds, and long-term national planning. The scale of their dominance raises a question that defines this dynasty. Is this the peak of inherited power, or merely the first chapter of a financial empire still expanding? Comment below. Do you believe any family on earth can surpass the House of Saud? Palaces, yachts, and flying fortresses, the physical empire. For most families, wealth is measured in square footage or the number of vacation homes on a map. But for the House of Saud, the scale is so vast that traditional measurements collapse under its weight. Their properties are not merely palaces, they are fully functioning ecosystems, built with budgets large enough to rival national infrastructure projects. The most symbolic of these is Al Yama Palace, the administrative heart of Saudi royalty, stretching across an astonishing 4 million square feet. To put that into perspective, it is larger than many university campuses and nearly the size of an entire small town. Inside its 1,000 rooms, every surface reflects a philosophy of abundance. Italian marble lines the floors. Chandeliers imported from Europe illuminate hallways that feel more like museum wings than residential corridors. The palace houses a private movie theater, multiple indoor and outdoor swimming pools, gardens manicured like royal parks, and even a private mosque. each element designed not for show, but to express a dynasty's place above the ordinary bounds of architecture. In a world where a luxury mansion might cost $50 million, it is impossible to attach a conventional price tag to Al Yamama. It operates on a financial and symbolic scale beyond standard valuation. Yet even this architectural empire is only one dimension of the family's physical wealth. On the water, their presence is embodied by the super yacht Serene, acquired by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for $560 million. At 439 feet in length, Serene is less a yacht and more a floating kingdom. It accommodates 24 guests in 15 opulent cabins and houses 52 crew members operating round the clock. Among its 7 swimming pools, the most striking feature is the underwater viewing lounge, an illuminated chamber where guests can watch marine life glide past massive reinforced glass. The yacht includes a spa, gym, indoor climbing wall, helicopter hangars, and even a submarine garage. Luxuries so extreme that Bill Gates reportedly paid $5 million for a single week aboard. For the Saudis, however, Serene is not extravagance. It is mobility, security, and global presence wrapped into one vessel. The skies tell an equally staggering story. One of the most famous aircraft associated with the family is Prince Al-Walid bin Talal's customized Boeing 747-8, valued at approximately $500 million after modifications. It contains a throne room, multiple private suites, a dining area for 14 guests, and interiors with gold-plated accents. The aircraft transforms international travel into an extension of palace life. Complete privacy, full control, and the ability to operate anywhere in the world without compromise. And finally, on the ground, their automotive empire reflects the same philosophy of grandeur. Prince Turki bin Abdullah's hypercar collection, valued at $22 million, includes a gold-plated Lamborghini Aventador SV priced at $1.2 million, alongside Bugatti Chirons and Pagani Huayras. These vehicles, often seen in London, are not just cars. They are moving declarations of wealth, engineering, and aesthetic dominance. Together, these assets reveal a crucial insight. The House of Saud does not merely possess wealth, they shape physical realities that allow them to exist above ordinary limitations, crafting environments that reflect the scale of a trillion-dollar dynasty. The world's most expensive art vault. In a world where billionaires chase rare assets to secure their place in history, the House of Saud plays a different game entirely. Their art collection is neither a hobby nor a decorative indulgence. It is a parallel treasury, a cultural bank where influence, symbolism, and financial strategy converge. At the center of this vault stands the most controversial painting of the 21st century, Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi, purchased for an astonishing $450 million. The sale shattered global records, but the mystery that followed elevated the painting into something even more powerful. No one can say with certainty where the masterpiece rests. Some whisper it hangs inside a private wing of a Saudi palace, guarded behind biometric scanners. Others believe it sits aboard a luxury yacht, shielded from humidity and public speculation. Museums have attempted to arrange exhibitions, but the requests lead nowhere. Its absence drives its mythology, and its valuation even higher. In the world of high art, disappearance is not a weakness, it is a strategy. But Salvator Mundi is just one artifact in a collection whose scale defies conventional categorization. Among the pieces attributed to Saudi acquisition is Pablo Picasso's Les Femmes d'Alger, a vibrantly fractured portrait purchased for approximately $160 million. Picasso painted versions A through O, but this specific variation, version O, became one of the most expensive artworks ever sold. Its presence within the Saudi portfolio signals not only wealth, but an appetite for artworks that define global art history. Their reach extends further, encompassing contemporary titans like Jeff Koons, whose stainless steel sculptures often sell for tens of millions of dollars, and Takashi Murakami, whose vibrant, anime-inspired canvases bridge Japanese pop culture with Western high art. These are not random acquisitions. They are investments in artists whose works behave like blue-chip stocks, appreciating regardless of economic cycles. What appears on the surface to be a scattered assortment of masterpieces is actually a calculated structure. a private asset class sheltered from the volatility of oil markets, tech valuations, and geopolitical tensions. Unlike stocks, paintings do not evaporate in a downturn. Unlike real estate, they can be moved discreetly across borders. And unlike cash, they accumulate cultural power as decades pass. The Saudis understand this implicitly. Their art purchases mimic the logic of sovereign wealth: diversify, appreciate, and stabilize. In fact, within some financial circles, the family's art vault is rumored to quietly support intergenerational planning, acting as a hedge in periods when oil prices fall below projections. A single Picasso can act as a reserve asset. A Da Vinci becomes a geopolitical symbol. But the deeper significance lies in what these works communicate. Art is soft power distilled to its purest form, the ability to shape cultural memory without saying a word. Museums curate narratives, collectors determine which stories survive, and with a trillion-dollar dynasty funding acquisitions across eras and continents, the House of Saud has positioned itself not only as guardians of wealth, but as stewards of global cultural legacy. Their vault is more than storage. It is a statement, a reminder that true power expresses itself in assets that endure long after empires rise and fall. Oil, Aramco, and the engine of Saudi power. For all the palaces, billion-dollar yachts, and record-breaking art pieces, the true engine behind the House of Saud's unimaginable wealth is not marble or gold. It is oil. Beneath the desert floor lies a reservoir of influence unlike anything possessed by any other royal family. Saudi Arabia controls an estimated 17% of the world's proven petroleum reserves, a geological inheritance that reshaped not just the fortune of a nation, but the balance of global power itself. While individual billionaires build empires through software or hedge funds, the Saudis anchored theirs in the single most consequential commodity of the modern era. The turning point came in 1938 with the discovery of oil in the Dammam No, Severn Well, an event that transformed a modest kingdom into an energy superpower. Over the decades, that discovery evolved into Saudi Aramco, a company now valued at over $2 trillion, making it the most valuable corporation in the world. Its profits routinely exceed the GDPs of entire countries, surpassing economies like Sweden, Belgium, and Switzerland. In peak years, Aramco has generated over $160 billion in annual net income, an amount many nations cannot produce even with diversified industries. But Aramco's significance extends far beyond corporate balance sheets. Its revenues form the backbone of Saudi Arabia's national infrastructure. Oil money funds the country's healthcare system, its expanding education network, its military modernization, and the vast civil service that employs millions. It pays for the construction of highways cutting through the desert, for airports connecting remote regions to global cities, and for the sprawling royal compounds built over decades. Even social welfare programs, housing allowances, fuel subsidies, and public sector salaries ultimately depend on the steady flow of oil revenue. For the royal family, Aramco serves a dual purpose. It is both the national treasury and a private financial engine. Everything from $500 million aircraft to palace expansions traces its roots to the liquidity generated by oil. And in moments when global prices spike, the wealth effect multiplies instantly. A single dollar increase in oil price can yield billions in additional national revenue, an economic lever no entrepreneur could ever replicate. Yet the true power of Aramco is strategic, not just financial. Because the Saudis hold such a massive share of global reserves, their decisions influence the oil price for every nation. They can stabilize markets during crises, trigger shifts in inflation worldwide, or pressure rivals by adjusting output. At meetings of OPEC+, the kingdom's position is so dominant that other members often align their production policies accordingly. Where a Wall Street billionaire might move markets for minutes, the House of Saud can move economies for years. But dependence on oil also carries risk. Demand fluctuates, environmental pressures intensify, and global energy policies evolve. The Saudis recognized early that a trillion-dollar dynasty cannot rely on a single commodity forever. And so the revenues from Aramco began to fund something even larger, a plan to reinvent the future itself. Oil created the empire, but what the royal family builds with it will determine whether their dominance lasts beyond the age of petroleum. Vision 2030 and the new Saudi Empire. Long before the world understood its scale, Vision 2030 was already reshaping the foundations of Saudi Arabia's economy. Led by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, it is not merely a reform plan, it is the blueprint for a post-oil empire. At its core sits the Public Investment Fund, PIIF, a sovereign wealth engine managing more than $700 billion in assets, with an ambitious target of reaching $2 trillion by 2030. Few institutions on earth control such capital, and even fewer deploy it with this level of strategic precision. Under MPS, PIF transformed from a domestic holding fund into one of the world's most aggressive global investors. Its acquisition of $3.5 billion in Uber, a $45 billion commitment to SoftBank's Vision Fund, and an $8.9 billion stake in Lucid Motors signaled a shift from oil dependency to future-focused industries like autonomous vehicles, robotics, semiconductors, and clean energy. Even its gaming portfolio, $3.3 billion in Activision Blizzard, nearly $3 billion in Electronic Arts, and more than $1.3 billion in Take-Two Interactive, positioned Saudi capital at the heart of entertainment and digital consumption trends. But the kingdom's ambition stretches far beyond financial markets. Nowhere is this more visible than in NEOM, a $500 billion megacity carved from desert and coastline. Within NEOM lies The Line, a 170-kilometer linear city designed without cars, roads, or emissions. It promises mirrored facades rising in the desert, AI-driven infrastructure, and a population of millions living in a straight vertical corridor. Critics call it impossible. Technologists call it the future. For Saudi Arabia, it is a declaration: the age of imagining is over. This is the age of building. Complementing NEOM is the Red Sea Project, an ultra-luxury tourism initiative that blends sustainability with hospitality, budgets exceeding those of entire national tourism boards. It includes marine sanctuaries, island resorts, and hotels designed to rival the Maldives and French Riviera. Each development is a strategic node in the kingdom's economic reinvention. Even in artificial intelligence, Saudi Arabia moves at hyper-scale. Partnerships with NVIDIA securing 18,000 AI chips, and with Amazon Web Services to create a dedicated AI zone, signal a shift toward technological sovereignty. Vision 2030 is more than diversification. It is the construction of a kingdom ready to outlive the oil era and dominate the industries shaping the next century. Global influence, sport, culture, and control over 15,000 royals. Power, when concentrated inside a single family, behaves differently. The House of Saud is not a lineage of a few dozen elites. It is a dynasty of approximately 15,000 members, with real authority concentrated in a core circle of around 2,000 royals. Within that structure lies one of the most sophisticated systems of governance ever engineered by a ruling family. Decisions are not merely political, they're economic strategies, cultural calculations, and global positioning moves that reverberate across continents. Nowhere is that clearer than in their expansion into global sports, a domain once dominated by Western billionaires, now being rewritten by Saudi strategy. When the Public Investment Fund acquired Newcastle United, it wasn't just a $400 million football deal, it was an entry point into cultural soft power, using the club's fan base, brand visibility, and Premier League influence to reshape global perception of Saudi ambition. Soon after, PIF launched LIV Golf, a league backed by financial commitments exceeding $2 billion, which disrupted golf's traditional order, with prize pools so large they forced the PGA Tour into unprecedented negotiations. It was a message delivered in capital. The Saudis are not participating in world sports, they are repositioning them. The approach extends beyond stadiums. Through entertainment holdings, tourism investments, and partnerships across Hollywood and gaming industries, the family's influence blends with the very fabric of global culture. Their reach competes not with individual billionaires, but with sovereign nations. Even among Arab dynasties, the comparison is staggering. The Al Thani family of Qatar with $335 billion, the Al Nahyan family of the UAE with $323 billion, and the Al Sabah family of Kuwait with $360 billion. powerful as they are, still operate at a fraction of Saudi scale. The House of Saud's $1.44 trillion influence multiplies across oil, investment funds, sports, media, and political alliances, forming a web of dominance that few global dynasties can match. And perhaps the most compelling part of their story is this: they are not finished. Every acquisition, every cultural project, every sports partnership hints at a blueprint larger than the present moment, a dynasty preparing to shape not just markets or industries, but identity and perception on a global scale. Comment below, which Saudi move do you think signals the biggest shift in global power? What this journey reveals is that the House of Saud's power is not built on luxury alone, but on a multi-layered system. Oil reserves, strategic investments, sovereign wealth funds, and a long-term vision designed to outlast economic cycles. Their palaces and mega projects show scale, but their disciplined governance and diversification show sustainability. Together, these lessons remind us that true wealth lies in infrastructure, influence, and future-proof planning. If this video expanded your understanding of global power, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for part 2, where we uncover the next hidden mechanism behind the world's richest dynasty.